Hello students, today we are going to study about the chapter Biomolecules. Biomolecules are nothing but these are the organic compound. These are the organic compound which is present in living organism. Bio means living organism and molecule that are carbon compounds or organic compound. And these biomolecules are macromolecules which having high molar mass, which is present in the cells of or body organs of living organism, plants as well as in animal. Then these biomolecules are of different types. That means these are proteins, carbohydrates, lipids. Lipids are nothing but oils and fats. Hormones, enzymes, nucleic acid. These are the different types of biomolecules which is present within the cells of living organism. That means structure of the living organism, it is due to the biomolecules, these type of biomolecules present in the living organisms. For example, the main constituent of cells of living organism is proteins and carbohydrates. That is, all of you studied in the biology, the cell which is made up of cell membrane, and that cell membrane is nothing but it is a lipid bilayer. It is a lipid bilayer. That means lipid bilayer means that cell membrane, it consists of two layers of lipids and proteins are embedded within that bilayer. That means cell membrane of cell, it is made up of proteins and lipids. Similarly, see here that cell consists of jelly-like fluid substance that is known as cytoplasm. That cytoplasm or protoplasm which is made up of carbohydrate as well as proteins are there, and cell membrane which is made up of lipids as well as proteins are there. At center of the cell there is nucleus present in the cell, and that nucleus is also made up of nuclear membrane, and that nuclear membrane are also made up of proteins, and that nucleus consists of nucleoplasm, and that nucleoplasm having thread-like structures like this. These having thread-like structure which is known as chromosomes. And these chromosomes are made up of DNA and RNA. DNA means deoxynucleic acid, RNA ribonucleic acid. That means nucleus, nucleoplasm, chromosomes consist of or made up of nucleic acid, and that means cell, overall cell, it made up of proteins, lipids, carbohydrate, nucleic acid, and hormones, enzymes are there also. Here carbohydrates and proteins are the main constituent of cell and or body structure, and these biomolecules are also required for different physiological functions takes place within the cells. There are blood circulation, osmosis, digestion, excretion. Different types of physiological functions takes place in the body of, in the cells of living organism, and these physiological functions are also regulated by these type of biomolecules. that all of you studied about the enzymatic reactions takes place within the cells in the living organism. Today we are going to study about these biomolecules. In this chapter we have to discuss about the proteins, carbohydrates and lipids. We have to study about the chemistry of proteins, chemistry of carbohydrate and chemistry of lipids as well as chemistry of nucleic acids. Then first of all we have to discussing on carbohydrates. The first biomolecule, that is carbohydrate. See here, all of you studied about that the plants during photosynthesis they forms the food, they produce food, and foods are nothing but these are carbohydrates or proteins. Plants absorb minerals from soil and they produce proteins and builds their structure, and it is required for their growth, as well as carbohydrates produced during photosynthesis. It is stored in the form of food. Then see here, we will discussing about the carbohydrate. See here, what are carbohydrates? Carbohydrates are nothing but these are biomolecules which having high molar mass, which contains the longest chain of carbon atoms. And the definition of carbohydrate: carbohydrates are known as these are polyhydroxyaldehydes. Polyhydroxyaldehydes, or these are also known as polyhydroxyketones. What are carbohydrates? Carbohydrates are nothing but these are the biomolecules which is present in the living organism, which determines the structure as well as physiological functions of that living organism. Is nothing but these are the polyhydroxyaldehydes, or these are the polyhydroxyketones, or these are the compounds, these are the macromolecules, these are high molar mass compounds, high molar mass compounds which on hydrolysis gives polyhydroxyaldehydes or polyhydroxyketones, or it gives both polyhydroxyaldehyde and polyhydroxyketones. See here, polyhydroxyaldehydes, that means it is a high molar mass carbon compound, organic compound, which contains aldehydic group, as well as it contains many hydroxy group, that is OH group, many hydroxy group, or it may be which contains ketone group, that is carbonyl group dash C double bond O dash group, that is carbonyl group or oxo group, as well as it contains many hydroxy group, that is carbohydrate. Or these are the compounds which on hydrolysis it gives resultant substance, which are also polyhydroxyaldehydes, or it may be polyhydroxyketones, or both polyhydroxyaldehyde and polyhydroxyketones. Then that is the definition of carbohydrate. Then examples of the type of carbohydrates are sucrose. Sucrose, all of you studied about that. Sucrose is nothing but it is a carbohydrate which is obtained from sugar syrup, sugar cane, or it is obtained from beet root or beet syrup. Lactose is a carbohydrate which is present in milk or maltose, cellulose, starch, glucose are the different types of examples of carbohydrates. Then see here, carbohydrates are generally known as sugars, or these are that sugar name, it is obtained from the Latin word that is saccharine. Therefore, carbohydrates are also known as saccharides. The word saccharine means it is a sugar in it, or it is having sweet taste. Therefore, these carbohydrates are also known as saccharides. Then see here, originally carbohydrates are known as the compounds, the high molecular mass compounds which having general formula CxH2N. For example, glucose having molecular formula C6H12O6, which is having general formula C6H26. The sucrose, which having formula C12H22O11, which having formula C12H2O11. And but all carbohydrates which does not fit into this formula and which having also tasteless taste, therefore nowadays the new definition of carbohydrates are accepted. That is, carbohydrates are nothing but these are polyhydroxyaldehydes or polyhydroxyketones, or the compounds which on hydrolysis gives polyhydroxyaldehydes or polyhydroxyketones, or both type of polyhydroxyaldehydes and both polyhydroxyketones. Then see here, the classification of carbohydrate we have to discussing on it. There are different types of carbohydrates which are classified on the basis of different criteria. First of all, see here, carbohydrates which is classified into mainly three categories, that are first monosaccharides, second one that is oligosaccharide, and polysaccharides. See here, this classification of carbohydrate, which is based on the criteria hydrolysis, process. That means this classification of carbohydrate which is based on hydrolysis. The criteria applicable to it here, that is hydrolysis. First one, that is monosaccharide. That means these are the carbohydrate which does not undergoes further hydrolysis. That means mono means one and saccharide means one sugar unit. That means it contains, these are the carbohydrate which contains one sugar unit which does not undergoes further hydrolysis. That means these are the fundamental basic units of carbohydrate. Then see here, oligosaccharides. Oligosaccharides are nothing but these are the compounds These are the carbohydrates which on hydrolysis, it gives 2 to 10 sugar units. That means it gives 2 sugar units or 3 or 4 or up to 10 sugar units. Then see here, oligosaccharides, these are classified into again different categories depending upon the number of sugar units which is obtained after hydrolysis. The oligosaccharide which on hydrolysis, if it gives 2 sugar units, then it is a disaccharides. The oligosaccharide which on hydrolysis, if it gives 3 sugar unit, then it is a trisaccharides. The sugar unit, the oligosaccharide which on hydrolysis gives 4 sugar unit, then it is a tetrasaccharide. And pentasaccharide, hexasaccharides, up to the, it gives 10 sugar units on hydrolysis. Then polysaccharides. Polysaccharides are nothing but these are the carbohydrates which are high molar mass, high molecular weight carbohydrates which contains or which on hydrolysis gives, poly means many, gives many sugar units or many monosaccharides. That means more than 10 sugar units. If it gives on hydrolysis, then it is a polysaccharides. Then see here, we will discussing detail about the monosaccharides, oligosaccharides and polysaccharides. All of you understand about that monosaccharides. That is, example of monosaccharides are glucose or fructose. These are the monosaccharide which does not undergo further hydrolysis, which contains only 1 sugar unit. Then oligosaccharide, which are classified into different categories. Out of this, disaccharide, the example of disaccharide is nothing but sucrose or maltose or lactose are the different examples of disaccharides. See here, the sucrose, which is disaccharide, which on hydrolysis it gives the glucose and fructose unit or sugars. That means there are 2 sugar units, glucose and fructose, which is obtained after hydrolysis of sucrose. Sucrose is nothing but it is obtained from cane syrup, cane sugar, or it is obtained from beetroot syrup. Then the maltose, which is a disaccharide, example of disaccharide, which on hydrolysis it gives 2 glucose units. And the lactose, which is present in milk, that is on hydrolysis, which gives the glucose unit and galactose. That are the examples of disaccharides. Then trisaccharide, example of trisaccharide is raffinose. That raffinose is a trisaccharide which on hydrolysis it gives glucose unit, fructose and galactose. That means 3 units obtained after hydrolysis of raffinose, that is glucose, fructose and galactose. Similarly, example of tetrasaccharide, which gives 4 units of glucose, fructose and 2 units of galactose, and these are obtained after hydrolysis of starchiose. That means starchiose is an example of tetrasaccharide which on hydrolysis gives the unit of glucose sugar unit, fructose and 2 galactose units. That are the examples of disaccharide, trisaccharide and tetrasaccharide, and that means these are the all about oligosaccharides. Then polysaccharides, these are the carbohydrates which are high molar mass carbohydrates, high molar mass compounds which are tasteless in nature and which gives many sugar units on hydrolysis. Example of polysaccharides are nothing but starch, which is present in different types of fruits and vegetables, cellulose, which is present in vegetables, and glycogen. Then these are the examples of polysaccharides. Then see here, this classification of carbohydrate is based on hydrolysis. Then we are going to discussing on the further classification of monosaccharides. That means monosaccharides are further classified into different groups, and the criteria which is applicable for classification of monosaccharide, that is monosaccharides are again classified into 2 types, which is based on functional group present in it. That means monosaccharide, which are the basic fundamental sugar unit of carbohydrate. Then these monosaccharides are classified into 2 different categories according to the on the basis of functional group present in it. Then see here, the monosaccharides in which the aldehyde functional group is there, then it is a aldoses. Generally monosaccharides are known as commonly glycoses. The common name or general name of monosaccharides are glycoses. Therefore, if these glycoses or monosaccharide, if it contains aldehyde group, then it is known as aldoses. And if it contains ketone group or carbonyl group, then it is a ketoses. Then see here, aldoses are monosaccharide which contains aldehyde group. That aldoses are again classified into different categories which is based on or on the basis of number of carbon atoms present in the aldoses or ketoses. These are classified into different categories. Then see here, the aldoses, that means monosaccharide which containing aldehyde group, if it contains 3 carbon atoms in the chain in one sugar unit, then it is known as aldotrioses. Aldotriose, which contains 3 carbon atoms in one sugar unit. If it contains 4 carbon atoms in sugar unit, then it is a aldotetroses, and it is aldopentoses if it contains 5 carbon atom in sugar unit, and aldohexose which contains 6 carbon atoms in its sugar unit. Similarly, ketoses are classified into ketotriols, ketotetrols, ketopentos, and ketohexose. Ketohexose. Then see here, example of ketohexose is nothing but fructose. Fructose is a ketohexose. That means it is a monosaccharide which containing ketonic group and which contains 6 carbon atom in its single sugar unit chain. And example of aldohexose is glucose. All of you studied about that. Glucose, which is monosaccharide, which containing aldehyde group and which contains 6 carbon atom in its single unit, which having formula C6H12O6. Fructose, which having also formula C6H12O6. The difference between fructose and glucose is of functional group. Molecular formula of both are same, but glucose is a aldohexose which containing aldehyde group, and fructose is a ketohexose which containing ketone group in it. Then that is about the detail about the classification of carbohydrate. Then we will discussing detail about the compound or carbohydrate glucose in next lecture, and that is about the classification of carbohydrate. Thank you.